Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Optimus Fantasy Football Waiver Wire Show. It is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024, and we are on our way to Week 6 of NFL action, and we are here to help you get your fantasy football squads ready for this Week 6. Mike, we've got a lot of weird changes coming today for the most part. We'll start with Robert Saleh is out in New York for fantasy purposes. Is this a big deal to you?
No, not really. I think we have Rodgers as a cut still. He's probably going to start throwing goal line touches. Brees Hall probably become even less valuable. At least that's what he did on his way out in Green Bay, right? He threw 1 million goal line touchdowns and won MVP. He got his way, but it didn't help the team win. That's what I would expect here too.
What about Davante Adams? Do you still think he's headed to New York?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. I mean, it's kind of mixed in the media. Some people think it's imminent. Some people think it's not going to happen. But here's another question. Does Davante Adams play another snap for the Raiders?
No. I think he probably wants to go to the Saints. Remember, he's friends with Carr, and he went to the Raiders to play with Carr, and then they ran Carr out of town. Of course he wasn't happy. That's one of his friends from college. It's
right.
That's
Fresno State teammates.
Yeah. And I mean, if he goes to the Jets, I'll change my tune on Aaron Rodgers, by the way, because Adams makes him a better quarterback. Because Adams is just amazing.
Well, yeah. Forget about Garrett Wilson, though. It's going to be the Davante Adams, Allen Lazard show when that happens.
Oh, yeah. Allen Lazard.
Yeah, I know. Green Bay reunited, I guess. Now, Drake Maye, it has been announced, started with Ian Rappaport at Rap Sheet on Twitter. Drake Maye is now going to be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots moving forward, Mike.
I'm not a religious guy, but Drake Maye, we're going to say prayers for you.
Yes.
Good luck staying upright. I mean, I always knew Jacoby Brissett was keeping the seat warm as a Patriots fan, right? We knew that. I expected Drake Maye to start at some point this season. Word is they were saying he wasn't ready, and now it's like, the heck with it, give him a shot, because Jaden Daniels doesn't have the greatest offensive line, but he's doing really well. Caleb Williams supposedly doesn't have the greatest offensive line, and he's doing better. When the matchup's easy, he does well.
Right.
So they're throwing him into the mix. Okay, we'll see how it goes. I do think it's good that they waited for Bourne to be back, right, before throwing him out there, because he's the best route runner out of the wide receiver group. So, that'll help, because where he'll be all the time. He's always going to be where he's supposed to be. So we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. I mean, I literally will say a prayer, man, to keep him upright.
Well, he's going to need it. I mean, if you've watched any Patriots games, Brissett's running for his life constantly. I don't know how Drake Maye's going to manage it. As my Wednesday night co-host, Herms, texted me right after the news dropped, Drake Maye's going to get murdered. I hope for his sake he
true Herms.
Yeah, but it's very much true. All right, now with that, let's move on to our waiver wire additions for this week. We are going to start at the quarterback position, Mike. We've got Kirk Cousins right now rostered in only 45% of leagues. Joe Flacco, the ageless wonder there in Indianapolis, at 5% rostered. And then Will Levis, the second-year guy coming back from injury, 3.8%. This is an interesting group of quarterbacks. I noticed Bo Nix isn't on here. I just wrote him up. I know.
Sorry, Denver.
That's okay. It's okay. I agree with you here. Out of the quarterbacks you want to be targeting this week, unless you're in a deeper league, Bo Nix, Drake Maye, not guys you really want to be going after. However,
dashes maybe, right?
Yeah, deeper league guys where you can afford to sit on them for a few weeks and take the discount now before they maybe possibly become more expensive. Now, Kirk Cousins actually looked a lot better, Mike.
He's starting to gel, right, with those receivers. The chemistry's building. I mean, him and Drake London and Darnell Mooney really got it going. 509 yards and 4 touchdowns. Pretty
Falcons record,
good, right? Like, pretty good. I think if you need a quarterback, he's your must-add at quarterback this week.
Yep. Yeah, he's got to be your number one priority right now. I would say, though, Flacco is close for me.
I agree.
Especially because I wrote about it this week in my quarterback waiver wire column that if you're an Anthony Richardson manager, you need to go get him. Go get him rostered. He's probably available in your league. His style of play lends himself to getting hurt. I'm not going to call him injury prone, but the dude plays so incredibly physical and is willing to take big hits. And those are going to end up in injuries. There's no way around it. We're going to see Flacco for at least 3 or 4 more starts this season. I can feel it.
And he's producing. And I mean, I hate to say this for those Anthony Richardson fans out there, but if you have Pittman or Downs, hell, even Pierce after this last game, I think you prefer Flacco at quarterback, right? Yep. Like the only useful wide receiver at all was Pierce, and it was on like 4 targets a game. I know he produces down the field with that sporadically, right? But still, Michael Pittman and Josh Downs are like, I don't know, 60 times better with Flacco at quarterback because they get 10 targets apiece.
Pittman got a touchdown. Pierce got 2. And it's funny because we talked about how maybe we were a little bit off of Alec Pierce with Flacco at quarterback. Because it turns out Flacco can still throw that deep ball, man.
Well, yeah, and he's turning into a really good deep threat, right? Like, I mean, yeah. But
we kind of knew it before the season. I think we knew Alec Pierce was the deep guy, and that's why we got excited about him in fantasy a little bit with Anthony Richardson, that big arm.
We did. Not everybody else.
We did. Not everybody else did. We did. That's a fair point.
It paid off a little bit.
Now, Will Levis here, he's coming back off of the bye after, he hasn't played especially well. But what I will say here, 3.8% rostered, you're probably not going to have to really even pay for him this week if you want to roster him. And at the very least, he has a roughly 10-point floor.
I wouldn't even say a 10-point floor. You know who they're playing this week, right?
Yeah, they've got Indy.
They got Indy. Last 3 games against Indy. Caleb Williams, 363 yards, 2 touchdowns. He hasn't been good, folks. Justin Fields, 312 yards, 1 touchdown. Remember, this is the game that got everybody excited about Justin Fields. He did not produce that well this week after that. Trevor Lawrence, back on track, 371 yards and 2 touchdowns. Will Levis can suck and still get you 20 points against the Colts. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. We're probably looking at 300 yards. It'll be the 4th week in a row. Don't be surprised if that happens because he has good wide receivers. The Colts, for some reason, can't cover anybody right now, at least for the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, Will Levis is definitely a good play this week. Now let's move on to running backs. It's a little more open here, but almost as gross. We're going to start with Trey Sermon in Indianapolis, who is rostered 49% of leagues on ESPN. We've got Tank Bigsby over in Jacksonville in 9.7% of leagues. Tyrone Tracy rostered in 18% over there with the Giants. Dare Ogunbowale. I don't know if I said
Ogunbowale. Dare Ogunbowale.
Dare Ogunbowale is rostered in 1.7% of leagues. The Texans running back. I'm going to say this week for me, the priority ad is going to be Tank Bigsby, Mike. He's done so much with the opportunities he has been given in this offense.
Well, and Etienne had a shoulder issue that kept him out in the second half. So with that, I would say the same, right? He had 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. And he caught another ball for 28 yards. If Etienne's going to miss any time, Bigsby looks great. And he's doing well splitting the time, right?
Yeah.
So I like him there as well a lot. After him, I would say Tyrone Tracy. I don't know if Devin Singletary's coming back next week or not. And if you keep hearing dinging, my smart refrigerator thinks the door's open when it's not, and it has to be serviced now. That's how smart.
Oh, that's fun. Fun times.
It's very annoying.
I do want to point out here with Tracy, 18 carries for 129 yards. The Giants got the win against Seattle. I think if you're Brian Daboll, you know that your job's in jeopardy, right? You've got to know that. If this team doesn't do something, show something. Tyrone Tracy showed something.
He sure did. Just like Wendell Robinson and Neighbors have, right? I mean, we both have said it about Wendell, right? Yeah, 12 catches, 36 yards, right? Yeah, he's
Sure, and
not
it
going
holds true every
anywhere,
week.
but he keeps catching the ball. And Neighbors was a guy they needed, especially if Neighbors is out. Tyrone Tracy's producing. I
Yep.
mean, somebody asked me about Darius Slayton, by the way, as well. Like, why would they move away from him after this big game? I said, I don't know, but coaches tend to do it all the time when their backup
Right.
producing. I don't know why. But
Well, and
I would
Slayton's
think
history is so
Tracy
boom bust.
Tracy produced. There was some hype for him in the preseason. I mean,
Yep.
I expected more catches for a guy that used to be a wide receiver. That's where I thought the volume would come, not with the carries. But the production was good. I personally had to play him in some leagues, and I played him in DFS, but I had to play him in some leagues, and I was super happy with 129 yards. Like,
Yeah. No, it's
ecstatic.
nothing to shake a stick at, especially when you're taking it from essentially who is considered a handcuff play at this point. Now Dare Ogunbowale, 15 carries for 30 yards, but that's not the impressive part this past week. He had 6 catches for 57 in PPR formats. Ding, ding, ding. You want that production. He's more valuable than Cam Akers for me in fantasy as long as Mixon is out. He's the
We
guy
met
that I want.
We mentioned him on the show last week in that
Mm-hmm.
capacity. If you were
Yep.
going to add one, you want the pass catcher. It's Dare
Yep.
Ogunbowale. I know Akers got the touchdown. I don't know when Mixon's coming back, but
Nobody does.
Ogunbowale keeps catching passes. I find him to be the more valuable, much higher floor. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
I like him as an ad too. By the way, he's kind of a sneaky ad. Most other people in your league probably aren't going to look at him as a guy to
Nope.
add.
Oh, he's a real off the radar type player. Yeah, I think he's a really sneaky, solid ad. To your point, we don't know when Mixon's coming back,
We
and he
don't.
has a history of these things lingering. So, I mean, as Steph Smalls once said, does he even have an ankle? No one really knows. It looks like he might not. He might have been playing on a fake one here. Trey Sermon, the last one here, he is the highest rostership percentage here. Not an impressive rushing performance last week with Jonathan Taylor out, but he did catch 6 passes for 25 yards. That's at least something in PPR formats. I think, though, for me, I'm the least excited to add him at this point.
Me too. There's a couple other running backs I'd consider before him that we're not talking about, by the way, like Roshan Johnson, just because
Yep.
he's the goal line back. Sermon was unimpressive. But again, if you're a manager who has Taylor on your team, I hope you added Sermon last week. I
Some
probably
points are
would
better
do
than
it.
no points.
Some points are better than no points. Yeah, that's
Yep.
where I was headed.
Yeah, I got some pushback on saying that Andy Dalton was still rosterable in fantasy because at least he has a floor. And someone was like, hey, no, Andy Dalton sucks. Like, yeah, but would you like 0 points or at least 4?
That
I'll take the
matchup
4,
was super tough. I had him as a heartbreaker in Moneymakers and Heartbreakers.
which makes
Super tough
sense.
matchup.
Yeah.
If you were expecting him to produce huge numbers last week, sorry, wasn't happening.
Yeah. You got to tune into our shows, people. We'll tell you when to start, guys. Come on now. Now that's going to do it for the running back. Let's move on to the wide receivers, Mike. This week, Juju Smith-Schuster, oddly only rostered in 4.3% of leagues on ESPN. Then we've got my personal favorite on this list, Jalen Tolbert of the Dallas Cowboys. He's at 7.6%. Jordan Whittington with the beautiful hair over there for the Los Angeles Rams at 11% rostered. Josh Downs in Indy at 34.9%. And then Alan Lazard of the New York Jets. Everybody's America's wide receiver too. 38% rostered. I don't know where to start here, Mike.
We can start with Tolbert.
Okay.
Cooks was out. Brandon Cooks was out this week, which is something nobody's really acknowledging. But Tolbert had 10 targets, 7 receptions, 87 yards in the TD. We actually have talked about him earlier in the season on this show, as he seems to be emerging as the solid second option on the team. Well, he was the number 1 option on the Cowboys this week, and he's producing. When he gets opportunity, he's producing. Even if you're afraid to start him, if you're wide receiver needy, I think he's a good ad. Juju is my top waiver ad across the board right now, because if he's going to be the number 1 wideout for KC, and see, what did he see for targets? 12 from Mahomes, I want him. That's all I
Yep.
can say about that. I want him then.
Yeah.
So he's the number one guy I would add.
I
Then
would do
Tolbert.
Smith-Schuster's, I think he's the number one ad out of all of these players that we're going to talk about this week because
Yeah.
he has the most
Oh,
value.
on the wire. Yeah.
Yeah, on the wire in general. I think he's the number one ad. Though I will say Tolbert's probably my number 2 on this list, with Alan Lazard being a really close third.
God damn, that Lazard guy just keeps
I
cranking out
know.
double-digit fantasy points every week. Yeah,
Every
his
week.
floor seems really high. I'm in too now. I
Yeah.
added and dropped him before the games this week on a team where I needed a wide receiver because I was like, touchdown dependent. And God damn it, he did it again.
Yeah. His weakest game as far as targets went, where he only had 3 against New England, he still got a touchdown, which put him into double-digit fantasy points.
I think Rodgers can throw him a football, and they can both have their eyes closed, and he can still catch it.
Yeah.
Right? So that the chemistry, we just can't beat that.
Well, yeah, they've been playing together for a long time. So every year of their career they spent together. And you love that chemistry. Now, Josh Downs, he's one that I think we were really big on him last week.
With Flacco. We kept specifying if Flacco's in there, we want Josh Downs. And I think we still do, right?
100%. The numbers weren't super impressive, but he did have 12 targets, 9 catches, 69 yards, didn't get in the end zone. These guys aren't going to get in the end zone every week, but with Flacco in, Downs on volume alone provides a very safe floor as like a flex play, an emergency wide receiver pop in. Maybe you have somebody get hurt. A million reasons that you could start Josh Downs. And 34.9% rostered. I think the people who want him have him. You're probably not going to need to drop much fab. You're not going to need a high waiver priority to get him this week.
Well, it's like Whittington. If you want to wait till after waivers process, you might be able to add Whittington if you need wide receiver help. He saw 10 targets, right? 7 receptions, 89 yards. In all honesty, a touchdown would have just bumped that way up. That's a good game. I'll take that if that's what he's going to get.
Yeah, same. All right, well, let's move on to tight ends now. This is where it gets fun. We got 2 for you guys. We've got Colby Parkinson of the Los Angeles Rams, 47% rostered. Then we have got Brenton Strange. He's in Jacksonville. Evan Ingram, is he playing? Is he still in the league?
Once again, they're telling us on Tuesday he's going to play this week. This is only the 3rd or 4th week in a row of that. I know because he was my most rostered player in redraft. I drafted him everywhere. But Brenton Strange has been producing without him there, and not on super high volume. But again, he's getting 8, 9 fantasy points a week. Was 4 targets, 4 receptions, 24 yards, and a touchdown this week. It also has coincided with Trevor Lawrence's games getting better, that he's using the tight end a little more than he did the first couple of weeks of the season. So, I mean, if Ingram's not playing, I'm more than okay with adding Strange and plugging him into your lineup as a tight end with tight end roulette, because I think you're going to at least get something.
Yeah. Since Ingram's been out, 9 points, 9 points, 4 points, 12 points. Yeah. I'll take that from a tight end at this point, because you're not even getting that level of consistency from Travis Kelce right now. That's going to change. But I will take that consistency. I think it's kind of the same thing for me with Parkinson. Against Green Bay, he had a huge week, 13 targets, 7 catches. Still hasn't found the end zone. But again, on that volume, 5 targets, 7 targets, 13 targets the last 3 weeks.
A couple of overthrows the past 2 weeks in the end zone way too. But he's getting the targets. I don't think anybody looked at him as being this amazing pass catching tight end ever in his career. But if he can produce a floor like this, get you 30 to 50 yards and 5 to 7 catches, you can't ask for more than that right now, unfortunately.
No, not at tight end.
Not at tight end.
Not at tight end. Yeah. Oh, man, no, it's bad. I'm still going to just keep getting Mike Gesicki every week, right? Just pray. Cross your fingers and pray. We're going to get into our drops now for this week. Guys, you can reliably get rid of right now to make some room for some of these guys that we've talked about. The first one we're going to talk about is Aaron Rodgers. And there are some caveats to this because we just found out Robert Saleh got fired today. Jeff Ulrich is their interim head coach. Thank God it's not Nathaniel Hackett. There was some concern there. You saw that Saleh was fired. You wondered what they were going to do. He's just not producing. He looks old. He looks tired.
And this can all change if he gets his way, because if you recall the last MVP season he had in Green Bay, if they got inside the 10, he was throwing. I know I rostered Aaron Jones that year, and I was very disappointed in his touchdowns going way down, because once they got inside the 5, they weren't running the ball ever again. And Rodgers just kept throwing touchdowns. And I mean, that'll bump his fantasy production way up. And if someone like Devontae Adams does end up there, to have him with Lazard and poor Garrett Wilson, if that happens. But you'll see him throw a ton of touchdowns again. Like, that's what will happen. He'll just be throwing once he gets inside the red zone.
Well, and we might be talking about him as an ad in a couple of weeks. We're going to have to see what happens. They've got a month to trade Devontae Adams over in Las Vegas. So we'll have an answer to this sometime in the next 4 weeks, I suppose, hopefully. The next one up is Justin Herbert. We all kind of saw the writing on the wall, right? With Greg Roman, with Jim Harbaugh. We talked about it. And it couldn't be more true. It's just he's not fantasy viable at this point.
Those coaches look at your team, your real football team, and say, how can we make this the most boring product we can put in front of fans? Like, that just seems to be what they did.
Yep.
We're going to be as boring as possible. I didn't draft Herbert myself in redraft anywhere, because I didn't like the coaching changes. And coaching matters. There you go.
Coaching matters a lot.
Coaching matters.
Justin Herbert's QB 29.
Ugh, yuck.
Yeah. So, we've seen the decline. He was QB 9 his rookie season, QB 2 the season after, but then QB 11, QB 17 last season, only played 13 games, and then QB 29 this year. I kind of feel like that's where he's going to track. He might slip in as maybe like QB 23 or 24 towards the end of the season, but there's nothing in this offense to indicate that that's actually going to happen.
Only if they play the Colts
every week.
If they play the Colts, that's one game you might want to play him. He might get 300 yards that game.
They do not play Indianapolis this season.
Oh, there you
go.
So
that dream will not be happening.
No, they've got out the window.
They've got Denver's defense this week. So if you're going to be dropping him, do it now. Get out from under that. Now, Rachaad White, RIP to my sweet, sweet RB1 Prince. It's over for him.
If you were still holding on to Zamir White, I hope you let him go too. But
oh God, yeah, I think people hopefully did that a while ago.
I don't know. I didn't check his rostership numbers, but some people.
Then the last one here, Carson Steele, another beautifully haired gentleman in his rookie season out of UCLA, the 21-year-old. Supposedly wonderkind that so many people were obsessed with. In week 3 against Atlanta, he had 17 carries for 72 yards. Looked serviceable in that offense, had 8 fantasy points. Since then, he's had negative 1.4 points and 0.2 points. His other fantasy point turnouts this season, negative 0.6 points and 0.3 points.
We're talking about a guy who's not that fast. He's never seen a tackle he's wanted to try to break, right? Or I should say evade, right? He might want to break it, but he can't evade it. He's just taking it. When they signed Kareem Hunt, I wasn't even lukewarm on spending your fab on Steele or Pirine, right? Because I was like, oh man, these are secondary options. When they signed Hunt, I tweeted out that you probably want to add Hunt, right? Mm-hmm. He's most likely not going to do much week 1 with the team, but you might want to add him. And in a couple of weeks, he's probably going to get to work. Someone told me I was an idiot. He said they have this 23-year-old, and then they rectified and said 21-year-old superstar with young legs and Steele. Why would you say to add Hunt? Dude, he's not a superstar. I mean, superstar.
He's a special teams player.
They like him. He was an undrafted free agent, and I'm not a draft capital guy, but
No,
the other measurables, slow and
that's a problem.
not elusive at all, right?
Also a problem.
It just didn't bode well, and then he fumbled. So,
Yeah.
and now you have the gang is back together with Kareem Hunt, who's friends with Mahomes still. Juju, who somebody's insinuating he's on steroids, but yeah, Steele out, way out.
Yeah, no, should have never rostered him.
Yeah, hope you didn't blow your fab on him.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people did. Now we're going to move on to defenses. This is more of the streaming nature, I suppose. Here, we're going to start with the Colts defense this week against the Tennessee Titans. I mean, I think this speaks for itself. Will Levis is back, so
Will Levis could get 300 yards, but the Colts defense can still be a great play, right? Like it's
turnovers.
Something, yeah. There's going to be turnovers.
There are going to be turnovers, fumbles, interceptions from Levis. It's an inevitability. Now we've got the Eagles defense up against the Cleveland Browns this week. Again, another one that I think just speaks for itself. Deshaun Watson is awful.
Has anyone looked worse? I mean, they had this great matchup this week. I have Amari Cooper rostered on teams. I played Amari Cooper. I made it to 10 fantasy points. And at the end of that game, I was like, oh, thank God I made it to 10 fantasy points. Watson just looks disinterested.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's another way to sum it up. He doesn't look like he even wants to be on the field.
Well, I think what was very telling was that fourth down where they had too many men in the huddle and he walked off. And I get it. You're not going to get a playoff. Nothing's going to happen. It's a penalty or it's a penalty. You get off the field, right? But instead of being upset, he just kind of looked like, meh.
I don't think he cares.
I don't think he cares. A quarterback who's competing is pissed off about that. He's saying something to the coach.
Well, I think Cooper was more pissed off about that. I think he was the one counting the people, right? Like, what the hell? Yeah.
It's over for Deshaun Watson. It's only a matter of time before we see Jameis Winston and his beautiful 30 touchdown, 30 interception.
I'm willing to go back to church to pray for that one too. I love Winston.
Same.
So much fun.
Oh man, so much fun. Now the Steelers up against the Las Vegas Raiders. This is kind of a no-brainer for me. You've got to fire up and go get the Steelers this week. See what Denver did to Vegas last week. Steelers are a better defense.
Great defense. Yeah. Really good real-life defense. They should have a field day.
Yeah, they absolutely will. And then the Bengals up against the New York Giants, despite Daniel Jones showing some flashes, enough that I think he's in deeper leagues. He's worth a waiver ad on 2 QB and Superflex.
They still cough up the ball, right?
They still cough up the ball.
They still cough up the ball.
Yeah. From a fantasy perspective, it's a really good defense to get going this week. For sure. Well, all right, guys. I think that covers all of the waiver wire stuff that you need to know for this week. Definitely make sure you check out optimusfantasy.com. We have quarterback and running back up now. I'm going to have tight ends, wide receivers, and streaming defenses ready to go here the next few hours and up on the site for you. Just to remind you guys moving forward this week, we have got the wrong one up there. First of all, thank you all for watching. You can catch me again tomorrow night with the one and only Herms. We will be live right around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then on Thursday, I will be live with the one and only Casey Kasem, 5 p.m. Eastern. We're going to run through the Thursday night slate, start sits, and some post-waiver ads. Then on Friday, we have got the Q&A show live, as well as DFS Live. I forgot to download that promo. You can catch Mike and I right around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with some DFS main slate plays. Then check us out for the Q&A live at 6 p.m. Eastern. We had a great week last week, Mike.
We did.
Tons of people. Yes.
And we had a lot of questions. No questions today.
No questions today.
I'm shocked.
I know, it's all right, though.
If also I wanted to throw out there, if you're in Florida, be safe.
Yes.
Please be safe. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on Friday. I don't know what time we're doing Friday yet. Do you?
I was thinking probably around 4 Eastern, but we can figure it out.
All right.
We're fluid.
Either way works for me.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well,
thanks everybody.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We will see you next week.